In this lesson, we'll create an interactive image gallery for the product page. Here we have all the thumbnails of the product's images, and the first one is displayed as a large image. We want to be able to click any thumbnail to see the large version of it above. We'll need to add some JavaScript for this interaction, and we're going to use something called stimulus. Stimulus is a part of Hotwire. As the headline says here, it's a modest JavaScript framework for the HTML you already have. Stimulus gives you a lightweight way to add interactivity to web pages. You start by adding 3 data attributes to your HTML: controller, target, and action. Stimulus automatically connects DOM elements to JavaScript objects. Those objects are called controllers. The controller is where you define the logic of the interaction. So here in this example, we have a form with an input text field where you can enter a name, and when you click this button greet, it displays the text hello with the entered name. So the first data attribute is controller, which in this case is hello. You set that on this outer div, which contains the rest of the UI elements. We set 2 targets, one for input called name and another for the output. And we have an action attribute set on the button: click, arrow, hello, hash, greet. This means that when the button is clicked, call the greet method in the hello controller. Now let's look at the controller code. It starts by importing the built-in controller class from stimulus, and then we extend this to define our own hello controller. Note the naming convention here. The file is called hello_controller.js. So that's the controller name or identifier followed by underscore controller.js. The name hello is what we use as the identifier value for the data controller attribute on the container div. Next, we define a list of targets as static properties on the class. Targets map HTML elements to controller properties. We have 2 targets here, the input name and the output. Stimulus will automatically create corresponding properties for each of them: this.name target and this.output target, respectively. Again, note the naming convention here. This dot, then followed by the name of the target, and followed by the word target with a capital T. So finally, we have the greet method definition. In here, we set this.outputTarget.textContent equal to hello this.nameTarget.value. Now that we have a basic idea of how stimulus works, let's put it to use by building our very own first stimulus controller for the image gallery. Now, instead of doing it from scratch, we can use a Rails generator. So let's run bin rails generate stimulus gallery. And that will create gallery_controller.js in app JavaScript's controllers. Let's open that file and have a look. So first we import the controller class from stimulus and then extend it. Stimulus has automatically added this method called connect. Now this is a special method, a lifecycle callback. There are a few of these methods. Connect runs anytime the controller is connected to the DOM. To see it in action, let's add a console log statement that says image gallery controller connected. Okay, now let's open up the developer console and refresh the page. And we see nothing. So that means the controller is not connected. Of course it isn't. We haven't yet defined a data controller attribute, so stimulus doesn't know which DOM element to connect this controller to. Let's go to the product partial and add a data controller attribute to this outermost div. And let's set its value to gallery. Now let's refresh the page again, and now we see our log message in the console. Next, let's set the data action attribute on the thumbnails, because that's what we want to click. So we'll say data action click gallery hash, and we need a method name. Let's call it display. Okay, now let's define this display method in the controller. First, let's simply console log another message, so we know that our action attribute is working correctly. We'll say display clicked image. Let's test it in the browser. Refresh and click a thumbnail. And there we have our second console log message. Okay, now we need one more data attribute, a target. That would be this big image at the top. So inside this image tag, let's add data gallery -target, and we'll call it display. If we refresh and look at the elements in the console, we can see the data attributes we've set. Okay, now let's proceed with defining the rest of the controller. First, let's define our static targets. We only have one here, called display. And finally, let's define the logic of the display method. Let's remove this console log statement. We want to set the value of the source attribute of the display target image. So we can say this.displayTarget.source. Again, note the naming convention here, target name display followed by the word target with a capital T. So this.displayTarget.source equals, we want to set it to the source of the thumbnail image. And we can get that via event. This here would be the click event which we used in the data action attribute. So we can say event.currentTarget.source. Current target is the DOM target on which the data action attribute was defined. In this case, it will be whichever thumbnail image is clicked. Now let's try that in the browser. Refresh and click a different thumbnail, and there you go. The big displayed image changes to that one. Try clicking another one, and it works. So there you have it. We have created our first stimulus controller. We were able to create an image gallery with very little code.